Here are the top 10 questions I get asked about church live streaming. Guys, thanks for joining me today. If you're new around here, my name is Marshall Swift. I'm the Minister of Worship Technology at Beaumont's First Baptist Church in Beaumont, Texas. And today we're just going over the top 10 questions that I get asked all the time about church live streaming. Some of these are things that I've had to figure out on my own over the past few years, and some of these are things that are kind of opinionated. And so I'm going to give you my opinion for what that's worth on these things. I will tell you I am using some notes in front of me here because it's a lot of information, and I do not want to ramble on for you guys. So we're going to keep it nice and concise, but let's jump right in. Question number 1, can I live stream with a phone or a tablet? The answer is yes, but I don't advise it. You really have two big things working against you when it comes to those type of devices and live streaming. The first of which is video. The cameras that are in those devices really just aren't capable of producing any sort of quality at distance. So if your camera or your iPad or iPhone is at front of house and you're trying to zoom in and catch your pastor 40 or 50 feet away on the stage, optically that camera's just not going to be able to pull that off with a broadcast level image. On the other hand, the audio piece isn't great either. The microphones that are built into those devices are very omnidirectional, and so they pick up everything. And while you might be picking up your pastor coming out of the sound system, you're also going to be picking up the guy coughing on the third row and the baby crying on the back row. So it's really not advisable, but at the end of the day, if that's what you have, by all means, get in there and get the message out. Now, question number 2, what should I upgrade first? And I usually answer this, well, it depends on where you're at. But the reality is, 9 times out of 10, it's audio. If I sit down to watch a video and the video quality is just awful, but the audio's really good, I'll suffer through bad video. But if you flip that on its head and the video is pristine, but I can't understand what's going on, or it's, painful to listen to, I'm moving on. I'm going to find something else to watch. So typically upgrade audio first. And depending on your situation, that can be done a few different ways. If you're interested in knowing more about that, comment down below, and I'll be happy to talk with you a little more about that. Question number 3. Now here's where we start hurting some feelings. Are PTZs worth the investment? And I got to be honest with you, in my opinion, it's not worth the money. Here's the thing. When you find a pair of cameras for $2,000 that you get motorized pan, tilt, and zoom options on, they're able to be powered over Ethernet, and you can control them remotely, you've got to be giving up something to get all of that in that package for that price. And you really are. The reality is you're giving up the quality of the image sensor. PTZs, 95% of them, just don't have an image sensor in them capable of, again, pulling off a broadcast level image. So no, it's not worth the investment. Now, if you're already using them, it's not the end of the world. We're actually using them here. But we've had to literally lobotomize them and tell them exactly what to think, when to think, and how to think to get them looking even remotely decent. Now, what are your options then? Well, for that same $1,500, $2,000, or sometimes less if you're patient and you shop the used market, you could pick up something like a Pocket Cinema 4K or a couple of them from Blackmagic Design and throw some older glass on them. Make sure you do the math and get something that will get you the distance that you need. And have a 1 or 2 camera setup for that same $1,500 or $2,000. Run that into an ATEM and get a sound feed coming directly off your front of house board, and you're in business. It's a way better investment of your time, of the kingdom's finances, than it would be to grab a couple of PTZs and just slap them on a wall. Okay, for just a second, let's jump off of equipment and talk for just a minute about just some basic live streaming philosophy type things. Question 4 is pretty common as well. Should I build for in the room or online, otherwise known as room 1 in the room or room 2 online? This really isn't as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. For a long time, the pendulum swung, far one direction, and it said, we're going to focus on room 1, and room 2 gets what they get. Online just gets the leftovers, basically. And then COVID happened, and a lot of people realized that that was going to be the only way they really got to interact with the larger church body. So everything swung the other direction, and we poured tons of time and finances into online streaming platforms? Well, the reality is that the answer is somewhere there in the middle, and it's usually around that 65-35 range, 65% building around room 1 and in the room, and 30 to 35% room 2. And what this does really is it gives your worship, your broadcast, and your production teams a good, fair shot at building something that's a good experience. It's an environment that's conducive to authentic worship, that has as few distractions as possible, but also encourages engagement as we gather on a Sunday morning to open God's Word and learn more about Him and grow closer to Him. Okay, question 5. What do we stream? Do we stream everything? Do we only stream a little bit? What should we do here? No, please don't stream everything, okay? And this may hurt some feelings, but the reality is we don't need to stream funerals, business meetings, talent shows, awards banquets, and we definitely don't need to be streaming things that aren't directly affiliated with our faith family and that don't represent our faith family. There's a few reasons for this, but I have 3. I'm going to read them off here so that I get them right. But one is brand consistency. You need to have some sort of consistency in both your image and your posting times so that when somebody sees your content, they know exactly what it is and they know it's you immediately. They don't have to go clicking around to find out, is this actually our faith family? Is this our live stream? Whatever. They know it's you. Second, and this is more about the funerals thing, nobody wants to lose a loved one and then a few months later be scrolling through your Facebook feed or your YouTube videos looking for something and they stumble across their loved one's funeral. Just trust me on that one. But as well, you also don't need to be live streaming your business meetings, right? Those can get dicey depending on what you're dealing with and how those are conducted with your faith family. So don't put all your dirty laundry out there for the world to sort through and sift through, okay? Third and finally, make sure that you're intentional about the workload that you're putting there for your volunteers to deal with. Yes, we want to create opportunities for our teams to serve. However, we don't want to ask them to come in and do every stinking little thing that we produce on our church campus. No one's going back and rewatching awards banquets. No one's going back and watching talent shows or your business meetings or that kind of thing. So that said, sometimes all you're doing is creating more work for your volunteer team, and depending on your situation, they may already be stretched thin. So be aware of those kind of things. Understand that you should be very selective and very concise about the things that you live stream and broadcast for the world to see. All right, question number 6. Should we enable comments on our live stream? And I get this one a lot, and for a long time I didn't understand why, but I guess I see some of the arguments against this. But that said, I say yes, absolutely yes. Turn on your comments, but have a chat moderator, okay? So think about the viewer base that you're trying to reach with a church live stream. A lot of the time, there's 3 main audiences. It's your homebound, it's your sick and traveling, and your new viewers. Now, a lot of the time, what that boils down to is you're permanently unable to be with you, you're temporarily unable to be with you, and those that aren't with you yet. The reality is that with each of these groups, we're trying to do one thing, and that's engage them. We want them to feel like they're still part of what's going on and they're still in the room with us. On the other side, the front door of our church is no longer the front door. Since COVID-19, everybody really kind of goes and takes a look at what's around before they visit you. So know that there are people visiting your online stream and deciding whether they want to come and visit you in person or not. So that's important. All that said, turn on your comments. Have a chat moderator to sit there and engage with people. They can do everything from offer prompts of engagement to welcoming viewers and prayer requests and posting links for upcoming events as they're talked about. All these things are able to be done, and it's a great way to engage your audience. Now, we're going to get back into some more of the fun stuff. Let's get back to equipment. Question number 7 is, do all of my cameras need to be the same? No, not at all, but it does make it a lot easier. What this boils down to is your ability to get the image quality in each camera and the color grading of each camera to look as close as possible. If you're up for the challenge, or maybe all you have is a mixed bag of different cameras, there's nothing wrong with using that. Go for it. man, learn a new skill, learn how to color grade, but it is a lot easier if you're using all the same type of cameras. So for example, here, we're currently using 2 PTZs and a Panasonic GH5. That said, I'll soon add a Blackmagic Studio 4K to that, so that's 3 different brands of cameras, 4 different image sensors that I'm trying to make match and look the same and get the same quality out of. At the same time, I have a friend who's a media and worship arts pastor in Oklahoma, and he's using mostly GH series gear for everything. He's using GH4s and 5s. I think he's using maybe a GH7 on something, but he's also using a couple of like old Z cams, and so he has to do a little bit of the color grading thing and getting the images to look pretty close, but at the end of the day, he's a whole lot closer than he would be if he was starting with a bunch of different gear. All right, hardware versus software. What do we choose? This question comes up a lot. I do have a preference. However, at the end of the day, whatever makes you the best steward of kingdom finances and allows you to produce a live stream is what you should go with. We started with software. We're now on hardware, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if all you can afford right now is to control your streaming rig through software, there's plenty of tried and true programs out there that you can do that with, like Wirecast and OBS. But my preference, if funds allow for it, I'm choosing hardware every time. Now, we started with software and ran into quite a few bugs along the way. You know, one update overnight or before Sunday morning can completely cripple your software-based live stream, while hardware doesn't update until you tell it to. And once you program it, boom, it's there. As long as I've got internet, I flip a couple of power conditioners on and we're live streaming. That said, there's just too many important factors that become dependent on a computer terminal, a singular computer terminal, for me to trust software the way I do hardware. It's just too big a risk for me on the weekly. Well, if you have made it this far in the video, you obviously like this kind of content, or I'm just background noise while you're doing whatever you're doing. So either way, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. That way you get notified first as soon as I drop fresh content. And there's lots more like this to come, as well as some other things. If you haven't already, check out some of the other stuff on my channel. Now, number 9, why doesn't my live stream sound good? This is a deep well that we could jump off into, and I could talk about audio all day. So I'm going to try to keep this nice and short. Essentially, I normally answer this question with, well, it depends. And until I look at your system and kind of comb through it, I really can't tell you exactly what it is. But there's a few things that are typically pretty common. Either an unmanned bus mix that just has everything slammed into it, and it's not really mixed, or bass blowing out your mix, or the algorithm of the encoder, you're pushing too much at it, and so the algorithm's squeezing it down and compressing it. There's lots of things. But essentially, there's 2 ways to run a broadcast mix that are very common and can set you up for success from the get-go. Now, the first step in either of those is making sure that the feed that you're getting for audio is a direct send from either your front of house board or your broadcast board, whichever kind of setup you have. Step number 2 is where these kind of get a little different. The first option is if you only have a front of house board, you're not running a separate monitor board or a separate broadcast board, on your front of house console, create a matrix mix or an auxiliary mix, a bus, that is set to post fader. And what you've done is everything that you mix in for the house is going to get mixed into that auxiliary mix or that matrix mix the same way. This is ideal if you have a pretty decent room you're mixing in, where you're not having to do a bunch of funky stuff in your EQ and processing to make it sound good in the room. On the other hand, our room is not that great. So what we've done is take the other option for step 2, and we have a separate console that we use for our broadcast mix. I have an SQ5 in my broadcast audio room, and I send a split to it from our Dante network, where I get all the same channels that the front of house board gets to that console, and I mix that specifically for our live stream. That is a little more work, but the result is 10 times as good. So either way works, and either way can set you up for success. There's pros and cons to both, but that is the direction that I would head in. All right, you've made it. final question. How do we begin moving forward with our live stream? Again, this depends on where you are currently with your live stream situation, but the advice I give constantly is to have a clear vision. This means sitting down with all of the decision makers involved with your live stream and casting that vision together. If you're a one-man show, if you're the sole person responsible for doing this, I encourage you to bring others along with you. Casting vision together and creating clear goals and expectations means that everyone gets to work towards the same goal with the same mindset and operating procedures. This really has been crucial for us in the past few years, and we're really at the point again where it's coming time to sit down and cast a new vision for the next phase of our broadcast. And so we'll sit down together as a team. In our case, it's myself, our media pastor, and our worship pastor, and we'll kind of sit down and okay, what worked, what didn't, what do we like, what do we not like, where do we want to go, and then we'll sit down with our upper leadership and say, okay, here's the vision we have. Let's evaluate this together as a team and go from there. But that has been really, really awesome for us in the past few years, just having a sense of direction and being able to work towards that together. Well, guys, that's what I've got for you today. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you have questions that you're constantly being asked about live streaming, drop them down in the comments below. Let's chat about it. And if you have other questions, I would love to hear about them. So drop those down below as well. If you're new here, thanks for joining us, man. Click subscribe down below so you get more content like this, and you're helping my channel out. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and watching my stuff. If you're a returning viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, man, come on, help me out. Subscribe down below. That'll make my life easier, and it helps the channel grow faster and helps us get this information out to those that need it. So thanks again, everybody, for stopping by. God bless you, and I'll see you real soon.